just look at the buildings. It's an architectural showplace. The Old Town Square is very much the center of town. There's the Town Hall Tower, St. Nicholas Church. The buildings around the old square date back to as far as the 12th century and the 13th century. They're mostly a mix of medieval and Renaissance and Baroque, from several hundred years of incredible construction when they really spent the time to put details into a building. They have statues dripping off the facades, ornamental decorative motifs, dramatic doorways, everything to please the eye. Notice the brooding Gothic towers of this church that stands in a commanding presence over the town square. It's something very special and unique to the Czech Republic. Sidewalk cafes filled the square in the summertime. It's a lively, festive outdoor atmosphere here. And each of the buildings around the square is gaily decorated and colorfully painted in such a way that they almost look like cakes or sugar confections or some kind of artificial toy buildings, but these are the real things. This is how the Baroque was built back in the 18th century. In this case, it's a fireman's insurance building. Of course, there's no automobile traffic allowed inside the square. There's this one street that goes along the left part of it, but otherwise it's a pedestrian zone, and there's market stalls out today as they've been out there for 500 years. You could take a horse and buggy ride around town if you wish. In our case, we're just simply walking and absorbing the pleasures of this fanciful old town. There's a series of narrow, twisting alleys lined with these cafes and ornamented buildings and little shops that bring you a few blocks from the old square to the river. And that's where we're walking now. We're heading down to the Charles Bridge. Along the way, we see some fascinating sights. So does this little tour group. It's nice to have a group with an escort to walk you through these places and show you what to look at and point out the history of the buildings that you're seeing. Trams run right through the old town. You'll find these trolley cars throughout the city, and it's a pretty good way to get around for the tourist. Our first glimpse of the Charles Bridge. This is the Old Town Bridge Tower, built in the 1380s in the Gothic style. It's a classic old structure. And we're going to walk up it. You pay a slight admission charge to get in. It's about $1. And you walk up about 6 flights, and from there you have a fabulous view looking out over the old town. And in the other direction, you can see the castle up on the hill and the bridge itself and the river. The bridge is 600 years old. It was built for Charles IV back in the end of the 14th century. We'll take you down there in just a moment. Some great views of the old town, looking at the spires of Prague. You can see why it's called the City of 100 Spires. And there's a wide variety in the styles of these towers, and in the styles of the buildings, really, when you look at the details of the facades. There's a lot of statues scattered around town, small parks here and there, park benches, a few busy streets, but mostly we're in the center. It's the protected area, and this bridge is a major place to hang out. Next to the Old Town Square, it's the most popular spot in town. Looking across now to Malá Strana, the lesser town, there's 4 sections of Prague: the Old Town, the Lesser Town, the New Town, and the Castle. And in 5 minutes, we'll take you up that hill to the castle. This is Dennis Callan for World Traveler on the Charles Bridge in Prague. This is one of the most beautiful spots in all of Europe. It's an incredible bridge. It was built way back in the 14th century, starting from 1357, and it was part of the fortifications. There's a tower, a guard tower, and it was also a bridge to unify the 2 sides of the city. And today it's one of the most popular tourist attractions in all of Prague. There's vendors, there's a tower you can climb up, and there's beautiful views from the bridge, as well as beautiful statues to see on the bridge. The Charles Bridge in Prague is one of the liveliest spots to be. They've got street musicians, there's artists selling original paintings, You can just hang out here in the daytime or at night. It's a very safe spot. The bridge connects the two sides of the old town of Prague, and there's lots of restaurants just beyond each end of the bridge. So this is a fun spot to visit when you're in Prague and the Czech Republic. Be sure to cross the Charles Bridge. Yes, some American jazz played in the Czech Republic, in the heart of Prague. We're going to cross over the bridge now to the other side of town, the Malá Strana, the lesser town it's called. There's a little Venice here. There's some little canals and a pond you can have a look at. It's a very quiet part of the town, the little Venice is. It has its own little town square with a statue. Some of these arcades are a bit worn for wear. They've been here for about 600 years and they could use a paint job and a facelift. And you'll see that there is some work being done in Prague, of course, to maintain the buildings. But most of that work is done. The city is ready for you now. St. Nicholas Church is the centerpiece of the lesser town, and it is a Baroque marvel. St. Nicholas is considered to be the final manifestation of the high Baroque in the Bohemian style. It was built between 1701 and 1770. It's a Jesuit church, so it's packed to the max with details of statues and gilded works and ceiling murals and frescoes and columns and ornamental motifs and the towering dome. The dome is 250 feet high and it was completed in 1751 by Kilian Dietzenhofer. The Dietzenhofer family was responsible, father and son, for this church. Great statues at the four piers are reminiscent somewhat of St. Peter's in Rome. A lot of the Baroque motifs from Rome have found their way into this Church of St. Nicholas, but here it's even more elaborate than the Italian Baroque, for this is the Bohemian style. Way over the top, super detail. The pulpit dates from 1765, and it was carved by Richard and Peter Prochner. This extreme interior has so many undulating curves and spectacular artworks that it's shocking to the eyes. You walk in and you're just astonished. So don't miss out on St. Nicholas when you're in Prague. Head over to the lesser town and make a point to go inside St. Nicholas and enjoy that treasure. We've done so, and now we're going to take a trolley ride. This will give you some idea perhaps of what an electric trolley would be like in Honolulu, as has been proposed lately. It takes you around town on steel tracks. In some places the trolley has its own right-of-way, and in other places it's mixing in on the streets with the automobile traffic. And it's a very comfortable ride because on the steel tracks you don't get bounced around. You have a smooth and level ride. We could have walked to the castle from St. Nicholas Church in the lesser town. Just take about 10 minutes to walk up there. But we thought we'd experience the trolley and be able to sit down and rest our bodies for a few minutes as we ride through this commercial part of town, passing shops and different sorts of commercial buildings along the way. And shortly we arrive at the castle stop.